Additionally, I'd like to recognize some state and local officials. We have Senator Costa with us, right here. Representative Ingalls. Representative Benham. Thank you. Representative Markosik. Representative McAndrew. And Representative Mazoka. Thank you. We also have with us Secretary of Education, Dr. Carrie Rowe. River County Executive, Sarah Innamorato. Monroeville Mayor, Dennis Biondo. We also have Sean Logan from the Chamber of Commerce and Visit Monroeville. We're pleased to have our school board with us this afternoon. Leslie McBride, President. Val Warning, Vice President. Jeanette Beagle. Cheryl Boyce. Susan Delaney. Rick McIntyre. Anthony Mock. Thank you. The Gateway School District proudly serves the families of Monroeville and Pitcairn. We are grateful to these communities for their commitment and support of our students. We know that adequate funding for schools is crucial. That is why we appreciate the governor's administration and its continued support of public education. I also want to acknowledge the General Assembly for their work on this year's budget. We certainly recognize the immense complexity of crafting a state budget, and we appreciate the bipartisan commitment required to achieve this. While there is certainly more work ahead, these investments have been beneficial to the continued success and growth of our schools here at Gateway. Specifically, it has allowed us to maintain sustainable class sizes in our elementary schools and secure important mental health resources by retaining our school counselors, social workers, and school psychologists. This team ensures that our students can thrive socially, emotionally, and academically. Building on that foundation, we are also actively expanding opportunities for our students, recently adding cutting-edge courses in cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. These programs equip our students with highly marketable skills, preparing them for the college and the workforce. Beyond the classroom, these investments have been instrumental in revitalizing our physical spaces. We are replacing aging infrastructure, including last year's roof replacement at University Park Elementary and the current replacement right next door at Cleveland Stewart Elementary, both urgently needed upgrades. Of course, none of this progress happens in a vacuum. I want to recognize the efforts of our school directors, our dedicated principals, teachers, and staff, and our supportive communities for their continued partnership and commitment to our students and our community. Governor, thank you for your advocacy for public education and for taking time to visit GSD today. Governor.
Thank you very much. Superintendent Rossi, it's always a good day when you're at GSD. And so I want to say this is a school district here at Gateway that gets it done not just in the classrooms, but clearly in the community. I know we're here to talk about the investments in public education, but I was particularly moved when the first thing the superintendent wanted to show me today is the food pantry and how they feed people in the community who are in need. That speaks to the character of GSD. That speaks to the character of the people that work here, and it speaks to your values, that you care deeply about the folks in these neighborhoods, in these communities around you. And so, Mr. Superintendent, I want to thank you for your leadership and for creating that kind of culture where that is the norm in this district, reaching out with a helping hand for others. So thank you very, very much for welcoming me here today. You know, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, you're going to hear about this from our great Secretary of Education, Dr. Rowe, who joins us as well. We have a constitutional obligation to meet the needs of students all across Pennsylvania. In fact, our Constitution in Article 3 guarantees a thorough and efficient system of public education. A couple weeks after I was sworn in as your governor, and some of these lawmakers were sworn in about almost 4 years ago now, the court in Pennsylvania ruled that we had an unconstitutional education system for really two reasons. Number one, because we weren't funding our schools with enough money. And number two, we weren't driving those dollars out to the school districts that needed it most. Instead of worrying or wringing our hands or even appealing that ruling, we all came together, Democrats and Republicans, and got to work to change the trajectory of public education here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, to grow our investment and to drive those dollars out to the school districts that need it most. I'm proud of the fact that today we are investing about $12 billion at the state level for the first time ever in public education. And to put that in some perspective, that is $3 billion more than the day I took office. And so I wanted to come here today to celebrate that achievement. And in particular, I want to celebrate two of your lawmakers who are here. We are in their districts, Representative Markozic and Senator Piscitano. It's important that you know their names because they fight incredibly hard to ensure that these dollars make their way to this district and districts all across Pennsylvania. And fun fact, Brandon Markozic, he's the deciding vote on everything related to public education, literally the deciding vote, and we appreciate his leadership there. Just to put it into some further perspective for you, the increased investment represents a 35% increase in education investment since the day I took office. That's critically important. And the reason we do that is not just our constitutional obligation, but we believe all God's children deserve an opportunity for success, that they deserve opportunity no matter what school district they live in, no matter what their zip code is. And we want to make sure they have that. In addition to investing overall in public education, I want to break this down a little bit, particularly for your school directors and other school leaders who work incredibly hard in this space. We've increased funding for special education by 18% over the last 4 years. Something I'm particularly passionate about. We've grown our investment dramatically when it comes to career and technical education, increasing that by 60% from the day I took office. My view is when you leave the doors of Gateway, whether you choose to go to the military, choose to go to work, you choose to go to an apprenticeship program at a local union hall, choose to go to the military or work in a small business, wherever you choose to go, we want you prepared for that next step in life. And we want you to know whether you're walking into a college classroom or you're walking onto a floor to go and work on a welding project, that you're going to have the skills you need and the training you need to be successful. So we've dramatically increased our funding there because we think there should be no wrongdoer for opportunity. And we know that we need more teachers in Pennsylvania, not less. And so a few years ago, we came together on a bipartisan basis and started something called the Student Teacher Stipend. So in the past, those who want to be teachers would study, and then they'd have this time in the classroom to get ready. Our teachers here understand that. But when they went to the classrooms, they weren't getting paid. And so they were struggling to pay their bills. They were struggling to be able to make ends meet. We now have a stipend that carries them through that process, and it is working. As a result of the budget these lawmakers supported, 3,000 more aspiring teachers are now qualified to get that stipend. That's a huge deal. And for the first time in more than a decade, the number of teachers is growing in Pennsylvania after years and years and years of decline. I just rattled off a bunch of numbers, and those numbers are important because I think a budget is a statement of values, and those numbers tell you what our values are. But a quality education doesn't just depend on dollars and cents. We think it also depends on common sense investments and approaches. Common sense means that we've got to give kids all the tools they need to learn effectively. And I can tell you that I can't learn, I can't work if I'm hungry. And so we all came together on a bipartisan basis, and we passed as law in Pennsylvania universal free breakfast for 1.7 million Pennsylvania students, including here at GSD. That is now the law in this Commonwealth, free breakfast daily in every school. In addition to that, we launched initiatives for after school to keep kids safe and to give them access to programs that matter most to them. I want to say a special thanks to one of your own, a native of Allegheny County, Austin Davis, who chairs the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency and has driven out those after-school dollars here and elsewhere. We've invested in repairing and upgrading schools. You heard the superintendent speak about some of those investments here. Why? Because kids can't learn when it's really hot in the summer or cold in the winter or when the roof is leaky. And so now there's hundreds of millions of dollars more statewide to invest in repairing and upgrading school infrastructure. This budget also delivers something that I feel very strongly about and that I spoke about in my budget address, and that is to now mandate at least 30 minutes of recess for K-5 students all across Pennsylvania. That is now law here in our Commonwealth. I think it is not just recess isn't just an extra block on the schedule. I think it's just as critical as learning math and science and English. Students have to learn to interact with one another, to settle disputes, to be able to exercise as they're able to, and to be able to have that break in their day from the classroom. That's now law in Pennsylvania, and I'm proud that we were all able to come together and get this done. Let me boil it down a little bit more for the Gateway School District and Gateway High School in particular. Over the last 4 years, this school district has seen their funding from the state increase by 23%. That's a huge lift for Senator Piscitano and Representative Markozic, and we appreciate their leadership here. That's an increase of about $3 million coming from the state to over $15 million total today. I wanted to come here today, not just because of the acronym of your school district, which I love, but because this is a school district that's been able to put that increased investment to work. You've hired school psychologists because we know student mental health is critically important. You replaced a roof on one of your elementary schools. Get this school district alone served 278,748 breakfasts. That's an incredible number, and that number has increased by more than 25% year over year. And I would note that throughout this school district, 7 student teachers got a stipend already under our new program, and there's only going to be more in the coming years. You've taken these dollars and you've turned it into real action, and it is working. As a result of our investment, coupled with the local investments, but most importantly, the focus of your superintendent, your principal, and your exceptional teachers, graduation rates here are up 4.5% over the last 3 years. And right here at Gateway High School, the percentage of students who scored advanced or proficient on their literature, biology, and algebra keystones has increased meaningfully across the board. Literature keystones alone, those scores went up 19% over the last couple of years. That's an extraordinary accomplishment. We're seeing progress like this all across Pennsylvania today. What we are doing and the investments that we are making is working. We've got more teachers, more mental health counselors, and more breakfast in schools all across our Commonwealth. We've got less truancy, we've got less dropouts, and we've got less worry in our school districts, particularly those who are doing the budgets. Graduation rates across our Commonwealth have grown each year for the last 3 years. And Consumer Affairs now ranks Pennsylvania one of the top states for quality public education in the entire United States of America. That's a heck of a lot of progress that we've all made together, and I want to stress together. There is more work ahead, but what I think we are collectively showing is that here in Pennsylvania, we can make meaningful investments, we can solve big problems when we find ways to work together. I've noted before that I'm the only governor in the country with a divided legislature. And so we need to find common ground between Democrats and Republicans in order to make these investments possible. I want to say a special thanks to another Yinzer who's here. Even though he's out of his district, he's critically important to the math, to what we're able to do to make these investments. And that's Senate Leader Jay Costa. Jay is one of the few people that gets to sit at that table when we're working through these budgets. And Jay Costa has been clear every step of the way. I'm not getting up from this table until we invest historic amounts in public education. That says a lot about who he is. It says a lot about the Democrats he leads in the state Senate. So, Leader, I want to thank you for your efforts in that space very, very much. It matters. Overall, Pennsylvania is on the rise. We've got more cops and less crime. We've gotten more Pennsylvanians on the job than ever before and a whole lot less red tape. And we got more teachers in our Commonwealth and a whole lot less hunger. We've got more opportunity for Pennsylvanians, whether they live in a rural, urban, or suburban community. and more opportunity as a result of our collective work. My goal every day is to open up the doors of opportunity for more and more Pennsylvanians, and we're seeing that progress, and the foundation for all of that progress runs right through our public schools across Pennsylvania, especially here at GSD. So I want to thank you for having me here today. I want to thank you for the investments you are making in our young people across this Commonwealth. And we know that with all the investments we make, probably the most important people, and I say this with respect to our superintendent, our principals, our school directors, and everyone else, the most important people are our teachers, the ones who are on the front lines with our students every day. I met Mark Spinola earlier today. I called him a utility infielder, and I said that with the utmost respect, because when I asked him what he teaches, he just rattled off about 100 different subjects, all seemingly quite different, and he did it with great joy. So your GSD utility infielder, Mark, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Governor Shapiro. My name is Mark Spinola. I have been an educator for 28 years, 27 of them here at Gateway High School, and it is one of the best things I have ever done in my life. I love teaching. Over the course of 3 decades, nearly 3 decades, you get to know what interests students and what students need, and also paying attention to what's going on in the country, in Pennsylvania, acknowledging the impending teacher shortage. So in 2022, in discussions with our superintendent and our principal, decided to develop a teacher academy program. So that's what we did. We devised 3 courses. We call it the Teacher Academy. They're some classroom instruction, some hands-on in the classroom, practical instruction. And we've had many students go through the program, some of whom are now in college now in education programs and will be teachers shortly. So there's some hopeful success impending. We've added to the program as well. Over the course of the last, year, we developed a partnership with Point Park University, and we've packaged some courses of ours with them. If students take 8 of the courses, some Teacher Academy courses and child development courses, et cetera, they can get 24 free college credits at Point Park University. It's an articulation agreement that we negotiated with them, and they have to go to Point Park, but it's a year of college for free, essentially. So that, for students of ours, that's an incredible value, should they choose to pursue that. So we're very proud of that. And then recently, we were able to get a grant from Patton to add a special education component to the course. So we have a disability studies course that we added, and we are going to try to develop some special education teachers out of that as well. I do want to take the opportunity to thank the governor and the legislature. Without real partners who care about education, none of this would have been possible. I have personally benefited from having student teachers in the classroom who are able to work more competently because they didn't have to worry about paying their rent or paying their food bills because they benefited. I had 2 who benefited, 2 of the 7, from the student teacher stipend program. So very grateful for that. Grateful for the investment in public education and special education in particular. So with that in mind, I want to turn the program over to Dr. Carrie Rowe, Secretary of Education for the state of Pennsylvania.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That was great. Hey, Doc.
Well, that's a hard act to follow. 24 credits while kids are still in high school. That's wonderful. I think you heard the governor allude to this. He said something about the budget and values, and it reminds me of an old saying that if you show me your budget, I'll tell you what you value. And I think if you look at this budget, one thing is unmistakable. It's very clear that the governor cares about students here in Pennsylvania and believes that investing in their education is one of the smartest investments that we can make. I think when you look at budgets, we're measuring things in dollars and cents and percentages, and we do the same thing in schools. But one thing is slightly different in schools. We tend to look at things from a practical sense in what those budgets actually represent. And in this case, the budget represents a student who's able to start the school day with a free and healthy breakfast. It's represented by a student who can earn college credits, 24 credits, that's unheard of, well done. But students who can earn those college credits while they're still in high school, get that dual credit thanks to the dual credit grants that are in the state. A school that has teachers and enough counselors and has librarians so that students can actually succeed, and classrooms that are well equipped for young people to have the time to learn and to grow, and for the first time, the time for recess every day. So over the past 4 years, the governor has invested historic amounts of money in education, and that's partially because he believes, as I do, that all students deserve the opportunity to succeed and to chart their own course. And I want to tell you that we're already seeing the benefits of that funding. You heard some of it from the superintendent. You heard some of it from the teacher who was just up here. Those are places where the budget is helping. But I'll also tell you that in Pennsylvania, chronic absenteeism is down. 79,000 more students are attending school every day in this past year than 3 years ago. Graduation rates have increased for 3 consecutive years. That's due in part to students having what they need and schools having what they need. In Pennsylvania, we've become a national leader in career readiness. Now more than 90% of the students in Pennsylvania are demonstrating the skills that they need to be successful after high school. And students are also making key gains in academic subjects like math, science, and with our English language learners. And I want to tell you, these things didn't happen by accident. They happened at least in part because schools could count on the funding to hire the teachers, the counselors, and the librarians that they needed, to expand the career and technical education opportunities, dual credit opportunities, like was talked about, to strengthen student supports, and to meet students' basic needs first, like ensuring that there are mental health counselors and that every student in every community across Pennsylvania has access to a free, healthy breakfast. This current budget builds on those last 3 years. And for me, I'm always looking for the lesson in things. I think as a former teacher and a former superintendent, I'm always looking for that lesson. And I think the lesson here is simple, that when we invest in education, we're investing in the future of Pennsylvania. So thank you to the legislators who are here, and most certainly to our governor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
And it is now my pleasure, thank you. It is now my pleasure to introduce the county executive, Sarah Innamorato. Thank you.
Thanks, Deb. Good afternoon, Gators. And thank you so much to Governor Shapiro and for the General Assembly for delivering a budget that prioritizes students and educators and families. Really, you know, the Secretary mentioned it, that budgets show what our priorities are. And this one reflects the priority that young children have across the Commonwealth, because we know that every child, regardless of zip code, regardless of school district, does deserve that high quality education. And these investments in education that are coming from the Commonwealth, they're going to make a real difference in school districts across Allegheny County. They will help schools be provided with the resources that students need to learn, that support educators in the classroom, and that continue addressing long-term inequities that have existed for far too long. And while in Allegheny County we invest a tremendous amount of money in young people, we actually don't deal with the day-to-day operations of school districts. But school districts are a critical partner when we're talking about the high quality of life for residents and future residents in Allegheny County, and it's really how we sell our county. It's how we encourage families to stay here. It's how we encourage businesses to grow here. It's how we attract the industries and talent that we believe are part of Allegheny County's next chapter. So thank you again to everyone who made this budget possible. Your investments, they strengthen not only our schools and our students, but they also secure our future here in Allegheny County and across our Commonwealth. Thank you for that. And with that, I'll bring up my partner in governing, Democratic leader, Senator Jay Costa.
Well, thank you very much, County Executive Inamrata, for the work you've been doing and the partnership that we have with my colleagues here in the General Assembly. And Governor, certainly we want to give a huge thank you to you, not just for this budget this year, but for the work that you've been doing for a number of years. When a governor talked about having the ability to be in that small room with a small number of folks, what he's not telling you is that he sits at the head of the table, and he insists that we are not going to walk away from that table without the investment in education. And quite frankly, any type of movement that came up during the discussions about reducing the adequacy level or tax equity, the governor said it's a non-starter. And we stood there and stood by him shoulder to shoulder saying, we are going to make these investments in education. And what we talked about and what the previous speakers so eloquently stated about what it means, it's not just a number in adequacy or how much we're going to put in special ed. It's what it means to the students and what it means to the family and where it fits into the comprehensive approach of how our families are educating and growing our kids. You know, we talked a little bit about the free breakfast, how important that is for folks. That's extremely important. That's a significant investment that's being made, and we haven't changed on that. We're going to continue to build that program, and quite frankly, we're going to work to do free lunches as we go forward. That's the next challenge. But at the end of the day, that's one of the things that are important. The classroom that our kids are learning in, the investments that are being made in the infrastructure along those lines, to be able to make the investments in the air conditioning or the roofs or whatever needs to be done, so our kids can learn in an environment that is healthy and allow them to be able to have a full belly, but also be working in a space that's going to give them the ability to learn in comfort. That's what's important. But it's the counselors and the school psychiatrists and psychologists that exist as well. As you can see, that's the comprehensive approach to all this and being able to have career paths that are going to be important for our students going forward. That's what this budget is about. And it ties into the other things that the governor has led us on. For example, the Child Care and Dependent Care Tax Credit provides family with resources, tax rebates, I should say, or tax credits, to help them manage their budgets and be able to work with what needs to be done with those kids. So when those kids are in the early years and formative years, being able to go through child care programs to be prepared to come to our schools, grade schools and the like, moving forward. That's important. It helps families be able to do that. And more recently, when we did the Earned Income Tax Credit Program, another mechanism to provide family with the resources they need to help them address affordability and take one less thing off their plate in terms of what they have to worry about, so they have the resources to advance and moving forward. But what this budget talks about in education space has been at the hallmark of what this governor's been talking about for a number of years. As the secretary said, we are a leader among states. We are a leader among states in what we're doing in education. And now those numbers are starting to bear it out, and that's what's going to be important. So when you think about the investments in early learning programs, pre-K and Head Start, when you think about the work that's being done with the student-teacher stipend to fuel that pipeline that we need so desperately going forward, when you think about special education funding, when you think about some of the other areas outside of adequacy, the basic education line, things along those lines, that's what's important. So it's more than just numbers. It's the impact it's having in our communities. It's on the impact it's having in our homes. And there's a person who leads us in that regard, and that is our governor. Folks don't see what he does in that room, and demanding, insisting that we move forward on these initiatives. And I can tell you, I'm so extremely proud of the last number of years we've been able to work together, particularly as it relates to education. So, Governor, thank you for the work you've been doing.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you.
Now, it's my honor to introduce my colleague in the Senate, Nick Piscitano.
Thank you.
Now, I know you're probably all waiting for the bell to ring, right? We're almost done. So stick with us. Two more. Thank you to everyone who spoke today. Of course, I think everybody in this room understands that education is the foundation for a successful future. The skills that our kids learn in places like this building are what create the success that they enjoy throughout their entire lives. And to be quite honest, for a long time, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania was not meeting its constitutional and its moral responsibility to fund schools so that our kids have the resources they needed to succeed. Governor Shapiro, Lieutenant Governor Davis, their administration over the last 4 years sat at this table that Leader Costa described and made that a moral imperative, that we were going to right this wrong and we were going to fund these schools so that kids all across the Commonwealth in every zip code had access to the resources that they deserved and to be successful. to learn not just reading, writing, and arithmetic, but all of the other skills that we expect our children to learn in these times. And the social skills, the mental health skills, the things that we continue to put onto the responsibility of school districts to teach our kids so that they can grow up and be successful. We are grateful for the governor and his administration for making that their priority, because we would not be here. Gateway would not have the significant increase in school funding they've received over the last 4 years without the governor and his administration making that a priority. And so we're grateful for their efforts. And of course, as things go like these events, the cameras are all pointed up here towards the elected officials, but they really should be pointed over there and in the back at the educators and the students who actually are doing all of this work on the front lines. We provide the resources, but it's those folks, the supers, the principals, the teachers, the aides, the staff that come into these buildings every single day and in many cases provide a lifeline for students so that they can grow and be successful. And so I'd like to give a round of applause for those folks who it's their hard work on why we work so hard to close some of these funding gaps that have opened up over the last couple decades. That includes this year alone, $25 million in new education funding just in Allegheny County. And those are huge generational investments that we might not see the payoff on those investments for many years. Even the secretary has talked about how things have increased in the last couple of years, but you're not going to see the investments that a student who's in the robotics club here and grows up and becomes a scientist because they had access to those programs here at Gateway. You're not going to see that for 20 years, maybe longer. And so these are very long-term investments, but very, very important to the success of the Commonwealth, to our communities, and our individuals that live here. The budget also invests, as others spoke about, $10 million more for student-teacher stipends, $10 million for career and technical schools. Those programs are oversubscribed. There's more demand than we can meet right now for those programs because there are so many opportunities in those spaces that we have to do more to close that gap. And just like the governor, I'm a big proponent of mandatory recess for K through 5. I think that is probably one of the most important things that students learn at that age is how to socialize, how to deal with adversity, how to self-contain and learn and grow. And those things happen in unstructured time like recess. We have key investments in after-school and childcare programs as well, which are these wraparound services that provide successful educations to families and students across Pennsylvania. Mark stole my thunder on this. I didn't know he was going to speak before me. But Gateway is doing a great job and has an excellent example of the special programs that they are creating as a result of the funding increases that we've done in Harrisburg. And so the Developing Future Special Educators grant is funding the Disability Studies course here at Gateway. That wouldn't be possible without folks like Dr. Rowe and Governor Shapiro making sure that that money can come to Gateway to fund those programs that are going to create these educators and create this pipeline that, again, may not have a payoff for 20 plus years, but are going to be hugely important to the future of our Commonwealth. A strong workforce begins with a strong education system. And so by giving these schools the resources we need, we're preparing students with the knowledge and skills they will carry into the workforce. Now, this is a little personal for me. So, Gov, we got to do some more work next year. My son will start kindergarten in the fall. I have a 5-year-old. And he gets to go to kindergarten for the first time. And when we went to orientation for his kindergarten is totally different than when I went to school. And it is amazing what teachers are able to do with these kids, and they should have palaces that they go to every single day to learn. And, you know, we're not there yet, but we're going to work towards that so that kids like my son have every single resource they need to succeed and grow and learn and become an adult. Like every parent, I think that we all want a good education for our kids and the ability for our kids to climb the ladder of success, do a little bit better than the previous generation. And the way that that starts is about the stuff we're talking today, these key investments in education across the Commonwealth in every zip code in Pennsylvania. And so tremendously grateful for the governor, his admin, the secretary, the leader, the other legislators here, all the folks that have to come together to make this happen. But to the bottom of my heart, I'm thankful for the educators and the school board, because they have the toughest job of anybody in this room. And all the things here at Gateway and across the Commonwealth to make it special for our students and ensure that the next generation of Pennsylvanians have the opportunity to succeed. Thank you. I'm going to bring up our final speaker. Give a loud round of applause for my friend, Representative Brandon Markosik.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Governor. I'm going to start by telling a story, and it's actually very personal for me. It's my story. I went to a small school, and I talked with a stutter, and I did not get a chance to see a school counselor until I got to college. So that's why this is, for me, very personal, and it's something that I'm passionate about, is making sure that we can fund our schools so that every kid does not have to go through what I went through, where my desk was put in the corner of the classroom for about 3 years. That was not fun for me. I got picked on, teased, and so I can only imagine today with whether it's TikTok or whatever, kids have to go home with that now. And thankfully, I was on that cusp of cell phones, so I could kind of go home and it wasn't that bad. Nowadays, I talk to kids, and that's not the case. Kids get picked on, bullied, so making sure that we are providing access for kids to go see a school counselor, a school psychologist, even a speech pathologist. Those are things that are passionate for me, but that's for all. All of us are different, and I think that's what is something that, for me, I think is great, because that makes us all different, and that's what makes us a great nation and a great state. And I'm just really honored, to be here today. I know I think I'm our final speaker today. I actually had a speech prepared. I said I'm not going to read that to you guys today. I'm just going to talk from my heart, and I just want to thank my colleagues in the Senate, Sarah as well, my colleagues in the House, and especially Governor Shapiro. Thank you personally for having me here today, but also with my journey with my stutter, being someone that I can just call and talk to. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. So in a moment, and Superintendent Rossi won't let me leave if I don't do this, I'm going to sign the bill so you get your money, okay? So we're going to do that. But I want to take a minute on our last two speakers. Representative Markosik is someone who really inspires me. What you don't know is that we have a new law in Pennsylvania making access to counselors and speech therapists a reality, because he was brave enough to tell his story and inspire people in the House and the Senate to come together and change the laws here in this Commonwealth. And those kids that get picked on today have you to look up to and have you to, find hope in. And so you're someone who really inspires me, and I appreciate you being up here and sharing your story. And you're right, these investments are going to make sure that more and more students have what they need. So thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. I would also just say this work is emotional for me, and I could tell it is for Senator Piscitano as well. You heard through 95% of his remarks, he rattled off all the things he wanted to say until he started talking about the impact this has on his child. And you could hear his voice start to change a little bit. I respect that, and I admire that. And every day when I go to work, when he goes to work and others go to work, we're fighting for the kids across Pennsylvania just like they're our own. And there's an emotional weight to this, an emotional responsibility to all this, and there's some emotional elation to all of this when we reach moments like this and we can see these investments come to fruition. So thank you for allowing yourself to be a little bit vulnerable there and to speak from your heart as you did, Senator. We appreciate that. And now with that, I'm going to sign this into law, and we're going to the money flow into our school districts all across Pennsylvania. Can we have the superintendent?
I'm going to go left.
Where's our superintendent? This is for you, okay? You can read that out loud if you want. It's all right. Don't worry, I make sure. There you go. Where'd our teacher go? There you are. I know, Mark, you use a lot of chalk in the classroom and markers. Now you got one of these teachers, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys.
That's right.
So why don't we come back up here, we'll take a few questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, I was a teacher, so.
Is that right? All right.
We'll take on-topic questions first, guys, please.
Anybody?
Okay, sure. Question relating to Pittsburgh Public Schools and other large school districts, some of which have struggled to have a balanced budget. Pittsburgh having to close a number of schools this year. I'm curious what in your budget specifically is going to help them, if anything specific, in other maybe large school districts. in
All of the
state.
funding lines that the Pittsburgh Public School District and all schools rely on saw their allotments increase, whether it's special ed or basic education funding or some of the infrastructure funding and so on. I'm not going to speak to the specific issues that the local district may be encountering, but I can tell you at the state level, we're stepping up and increasing our investment across the board.
Mine's off topic, and it might be for Secretary Rowe. But I was just curious with the news about the possible merger between Duquesne and McKeesport school districts. Just wanted to dig a little bit more into what you saw in Duquesne that made you look into the merger, and then also how often does PDE look into possible school mergers?
Okay, well, I think with respect to Duquesne specifically, Duquesne is a distressed school district and has had that label for 26 years. They are also a school district that's in receivership. So we know that a school district in receivership often has a structural underpinning that regarding their debt that is long-term. So last year, seeing that being the case, the General Assembly passed Act 47 and tasked the Department of Education with creating a feasibility study. And this for us is a multi-step process, and the first phase of that process has just been completed, where we took a look at the specific needs of Duquesne City School District and also at 4 school districts in the surrounding area, and decided took a look at those school districts to see if there were any good matches. We looked at their finances, we looked at academics and other things. And I think most importantly, we took the time to listen. We listened to the community, to families who send students to each of those school districts, including Duquesne. And we also spoke to the faculty and staff in each one of those locations. So that was the first phase that just ended. The second phase of the feasibility study is underway right now, and we anticipate that that is going to be going through March of 2027. So between now and then, I think what we are looking at is just continuing to support Duquesne City School District and the receiver that is there. And I think what you can see through this budget is that not only does the governor have Duquesne City School District students in mind, but has in mind the students across the Commonwealth, making sure that everybody has what they need to reach their fullest potential.
I have a question for the governor.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, thank you for talking about the investments specifically here in Gateway School District. But I did have a question about how the budget doesn't include long-term public transit funding, including PTR or PRT, and that is a way where students in Pittsburgh Public School District has to be transported from their schools to classes, from home to classes. Any response to that? First part. Second part is my off-topic, since we're doing off-topic. Commercial Street Bridge, easy, just a reaction from that.
Yeah, easy, right?
Big implosion, simple.
Well, first, let's talk about mass transit. Mass transit is absolutely critical. PRT and all of our other agencies across each of our 67 counties in Pennsylvania. There is some mass transit in every one of our counties, rural, urban, and suburban. PRT is obviously critical. I've been calling for increased funding for mass transit now for the last 4 years. Every single lawmaker who is here today has voted for and advocated for increased funding for mass transit. Unfortunately, over the last couple of years, Senator Costa's colleagues on the other side of the aisle in the Senate refused to go along and refused to fully fund mass transit. So what I did last year was, using my authority as governor, it's called a flex, basically flex some dollars that we had available to our largest mass transit agencies, PRT among them. I was able to flex $106 million for PRT to, in effect, get them through 2 years. We're now approaching the second year. So they have what they need now, but I'm going to continue to push the legislature to act on this, continue to push the importance of mass transit. And it's time for the legislature to come together with all these lawmakers who are here, who support it, and get a bill to my desk to increase funding for mass transit all across Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Governor.
Yep.
One more from you, Channel 4, then back to KDK. We'll end there, please.
Oh, I asked about Commercial Street Bridge.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
So, look, PennDOT is working quickly post-demo to replace the bridge. We've been in communication regularly with Secretary Carroll, our great Secretary of PennDOT, and I think the team there is doing really, really well. By contract, this has to be done by August 3rd, and I can report that we are on target. I know that there was some news when they didn't do some of the blasting yesterday. We chose not to do it yesterday out of a precautionary step we want to take to ensure the public would be safe. The Secretary ensured that we were still on target, and we are, because that blasting occurred this morning at roughly 8 o'clock, and it went well, and everything was safe. We expect the rubble to be cleared out really over the course of the next maybe 48 hours or so. And our plan is to have the slide-in, which is going to be very, very cool, I think, to see. Cool is not an engineering term, but it is my term. That slide-in is likely to begin Saturday the 18th or Sunday the 19th. We'll make sure the weather cooperates as well. Obviously appreciate the public's patience here. And I also appreciate the public's respect for the workers who are doing this important work. And I want to encourage everybody to go check out the live stream of this really, in many ways, unprecedented project that we're undertaking. You can go over to pa.gov/commercial ST Bridge, commercial ST Bridge, and you can watch the progress. And I think it'll be particularly exciting to watch on Saturday or Sunday when that slide-in occurs. I know we've been coordinating locally with County Executive Innamorato, Mayor O'Connor, and others about traffic issues, and just ask the public for a little more patience as we work through this. But we're on time, and we're going to get this done.
Ricky, last one quick, please.
Anyone who goes outside right now knows there's something in the air, obviously related to the Canadian wildfires. Is the state concerned? Do you have any recommendation for people in the state?
Yeah.
We've got a lot of people, for instance, going outside from Picklesburg, which I hope you can make it to.
Picklesburg is cool. It's really cool. Look, our administration is actively monitoring this, working with our local partners, including our county executive and others across the state, to monitor these air quality conditions. DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, has issued a code purple, which is at the highest alert in northwestern Pennsylvania, and a code red air quality action day for the rest of this Commonwealth. Obviously, this is due to the smoke coming from Canada. PEMA, Pennsylvania Emergency Management Authority, has been in touch with local counties to make sure they have all the resources they need. In terms of general advice for the public, particularly people who have breathing issues, asthma, things like that, we want to kind of discourage you from going outside unless you have to. Being inside in air that is being filtered through air conditioning, assuming you have that air conditioning, is going to be healthier for you. And if you've got specific health issues, you can reach out to your local county health department, to the Pennsylvania Department of Health. And we also want to encourage you to reach out to your physician should you feel like you need to contact her or him with any specific needs that you have. And if you have issues because you don't have air conditioning at home, we have local cooling centers all across Pennsylvania. So we want to encourage you to dial 211 to find your local cooling center if you need a place to go cool off and not be outside and have to breathe that air. Okay?
Thank you all.
Anything else? Thank you all very, very much.